Good morning. Today we're going to read chapters 9 through 12 of Exodus. Tomorrow's readings are 12 and 13, but we'll put 12 in there today and we'll finish up on these 10 plagues. Now, I was just kind of reading a little bit about one and just a little bit late start. That's okay. So the fifth plague that comes as chapter 9 begins is disease. That comes, boils and sores, the pestilence, it says, to the horses, the livestock, the sheep, the herds, the flocks, and all of that. And it, again, affects only those of the Egyptians. And verse 6 says, on the next day the Lord did so. All the livestock of the Egyptians died, but of the Israelites none died. And Pharaoh checked on that and saw that was what it was true. But again, Pharaoh's heart was hardened. And the next plague, number 6, was God says to Moses and Aaron, take some ash out of the furnace and throw it up into the air, and the boils will come and cover all of the humans and the animals. And you know, when it says, oh, the humans and the animals, well, all the livestock and the herds, so this must be the dogs and the cats and whatever. But they're all covered with boils, and it says they were covered with so boils that even afflicted the magicians as well as all the rest of them. You know, the magicians and all. The magicians had no recourse against God. And again, you know, I will not let you go. The 7th plague is hail, and God says to Moses, stretch your hand out so that hail will fall upon the whole land of Egypt, the humans and animals and all the plants. And hail came, and it says that the barley was destroyed and the flax was destroyed. I think it was the barley and the flax. 2 crops were destroyed, but the wheat and something were later maturing, so they were still okay from the hail. And in this plague, finally, number 7, Pharaoh in verse 27 of chapter 9 says, this time I have sinned. The Lord is in the right, and I and my people are in the wrong. And it says, pray to the Lord. Enough of God's thunder and hail. I will let you go. You need stay no longer. So, I mean, Pharaoh is understanding that, you know, he's not the one that's in control. But yet, Moses stretches his hands out, and of course, the hail and the rain end. And Pharaoh's heart again is hardened, so he would not let them go. And then chapter 10 begins with Moses hearing again from God, saying, God says, go again to Pharaoh. I have hardened his heart and his officials in order that I may show these signs to you. And it's let my people go. If you refuse, I will send locusts. And of course, we know the locusts came, and they were so thick and in everything, just like the frogs. They were in the beds, they were in the hair, they were everywhere. And, but Pharaoh just got more upset, you know. And verse 7, chapter 10, Pharaoh's officials come. How long shall this fellow be a snare to us? Let the people go. I mean, the officials, the others, the advisors are saying to Pharaoh, let him go, get him out of here. We can't take this anymore. But Pharaoh refuses. You know, he said, the Lord indeed will be with you if ever I let your little ones go. You have some evil purpose in mind. No, never. And the Lord again says to Moses, stretch your hand out. And the 9th plague is darkness that comes over the whole land. A darkness so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And I'm just trying to read what I got. Well, Pharaoh says that the people can go, but they have to leave their animals, their livestock, and you know, all of that, so that he knows they will come back. You know, he just doesn't trust him. And we know that, as you know, after the 10th plague comes, that Pharaoh tells them, just go and get out of here and don't come back. But anyway, so in chapter 11, the darkness has been there and gone. Chapter 11 begins with God saying to Moses, I will bring one more plague upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt, and afterwards he will let you go. Tell the people that every man is to ask his neighbor and every woman to ask her neighbor for objects of silver and gold. So the Israelites are asking for the silver and the gold from the Egyptians, and they are getting this. And God then says to Moses and Aaron, at midnight, I will go through the land of Egypt, and every firstborn in the land will die, from the very firstborn of the Pharaoh down to the firstborn of the most insignificant slave. And he's got all of this is going to happen. And then, you know, the officials will come and they will let you go. So the Lord says to Moses in verse 9, Pharaoh will not let you go, in order that my wonders may be multiplied to you. So Moses goes with this warning to Pharaoh. And of course, Pharaoh has nothing to do with that. And so then in chapter 12, we have the first Passover. And this Passover is, you know, it's do this in remembrance, you know. And the Israelites have been in Egypt for 430 years, you know, from the time that Joseph had been there, and then his father Jacob and brothers came. 430 years have passed that they've been there. And they've grown from this 72 people to 600,000 men, plus the women and the children as they're leaving. But for the Passover, God instructs them, and hopefully you know this, you know, that to take a lamb or a goat, a baby, a young 1-year-old, unblemished, and take it on the 10th day, and then on the 14th day, you know, slaughter it and put some of the blood on your doorposts and on the lintels, and the Lord will pass over your houses, and all of this comes to pass. The Israelites do as they are supposed to do. And the Lord, you know, in verse 12 of chapter 12, I will pass through the land of Egypt that night. I will strike down every firstborn in the land of Egypt, human and animals. On all of the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. The blood shall be a sign for you in the house where you live, and I will see the blood, and I will pass over you. And we know that when Jesus was brought up, you know, it was a custom. It tells us in the Gospels, it was a custom of his family to go to Jerusalem for the Passover. And the years when Jesus was doing his ministry, it was his custom as well to go to Jerusalem for the Passover. And it was on that Passover, just before he was crucified, that he sat with his disciples and said, a new covenant I will make with you. And this first covenant, the new covenant, replaces the covenant that God's going to be making with Moses and the Israelites after they're finally set free. But it's the Passover that is still done, and in the Jewish community yet today, as they gather together for the Passover, it's a remembrance. Do this in remembrance of me. And God instructs them, you know, to do this, you know, and to remember this day. And to remember always that, you know, God is definitely with us, that God has chosen us to be his people, and that we indeed are the